38,000 references to Donald Trump in the partial release of Epstein files on Friday. I say partial release because only 3 million documents have been produced. We believe there may be as many as 3 million more documents, perhaps 50 million pages that are still being hidden. And based on my experience as a litigator, I believe the most devastating documents have not yet been produced, but there have been bombshells, as noted just moments ago, 38,000 references to Donald Trump. He appears in 5,000 separate files in some of the most grotesque and vile ways. But Donald Trump says it is a complete vindication of him when it isn't. When you actually look at these files, the cabal that Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans were talking about, well, turns out it's in the White House right now. Howard Lutnick is all over it. Elon Musk is all over it. Peter Thiel is all over it. The whole crew is mentioned. Oh, Steve Bannon was having like daily conversations with Epstein. It's all right there. And for me, not getting conspiratorial, I'm just going to read the documents and share with you what they say. And I'll be clear, some of them are just allegations. Some of them are statements of contemporaneous writings between Epstein and others. You form your own opinions, but these are the documents. These are the emails. These are the confidential informant reports. We'll go through them again, but we've done some deep dives here on the MeidasTouch Network where we've gone over extensively the 3 million documents that have been produced. We'll talk about Donald Trump shutting down the Kennedy Center after staff has been quitting, performers have been canceling their shows, and no one has been showing up to attend. Donald Trump took a crown jewel of Washington, D.C., a true treasure, and in record time, he destroyed it by vandalizing it with putting his name on it. We'll cover that. We should talk about this massive victory for Democrats in Texas. Texas State Senate District number 9 had a special election that oddly took place on a Saturday when nobody was expecting it, except if you live in Texas. But it was very much hyped up in Texas. There was not a low voter turnout. There was a high turnout, but independents and Republicans voted Democrat. Taylor Remitt, the Democratic candidate, union worker who fought for workers' rights and affordability, won by plus 14 in what was previously a plus 17 Trump district. That's a plus 31 overperformance by Democrats. And then Donald Trump's like, I don't even know who the candidate is. Lee Wamgans, the MAGA Republican. Who's that? Donald Trump continued to endorse her over and over again and now pretends that he didn't even know who the Republican candidate was there. That's a little bit of insight into the future, MAGA Republicans. And actually, it's a blast from the past because this is what Trump does. He uses you, abuses you, and then throws you under the bus. We'll also talk about the Wall Street Journal exclusive about how Trump and Witkoff's company, World Liberty Financial, it's like the Trump kids and the Witkoff kids are in this company together. And they got $500 million from the United Arab Emirates. And this was before there was even a product that existed in this company. So it was basically money that went directly to the Trumps and Witkoffs. And then shortly thereafter, during the Trump term so far, Trump gave the United Arab Emirates access to the most highly classified semiconductor chips that the United States has that no prior American administration would even think about giving to the United Arab Emirates. And then earlier today, Donald Trump said, I know nothing about it. I know they like Bitcoin, but I know not what? What are we talking about here? I know nothing about it. We'll talk about that and more here on the MeidasTouch Podcast. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Brett and Jordy brothers. How are you doing?
Doing great, Ben, doing great, Jordy, doing great, Midas Mighty. It's great to be here, everybody, on this Monday, Tuesday, if you're listening on audio. It was interesting when we saw the Don Lemon arrest go down the other day. I don't know why. I had this instinctual gut feeling. I'm like, they must be getting ready to drop another round of Epstein files because this is so ridiculous and insane that, I know it's become a cliche at this point to say that they're trying to distract from something, but I was like, this is just way too freaking weird. And I think not an hour after I said that did Todd Blanche get out there and then announce this new trove of the Epstein documents. And while Trump tries to go out there and say, basically what he says every time he's in trouble, I'm fully exonerated, everything's great, it actually says I'm good. Those files were bad. Those files were horrific to watch. I went fully down the rabbit hole all weekend, pouring through a ton of files. There were 3 million of them. I went through as many as I can. I was searching keywords, key phrases, and the things that we found here and that other people have found are truly horrifying. And I think it even goes beyond the fact, and we'll talk about this in greater detail, beyond the fact that this was a child sex trafficking ring and a sex trafficking ring in general, but it really shows this kind of behind the scenes elites, the way they use their network to get things done. Thinking back, every accusation is a confession. We know Donald Trump spoke about the idea of a deep state. It was the big thing he ran on, and QAnon and Pizzagate and all of those things. Well, it seemed like all of those things that he was saying was deflections from the things that him and Epstein and their associates were doing throughout these years. And by the way, I guarantee you, it's all happening right now as well without Epstein. We're going to dive into it all. We got to toss to Jordy. Jordy, what's the latest?
What's up, brothers? What's up, Midas Mighty? Great to be here. Excited to get into today's show. And let me just say this real quick, Brett. So to your distraction note, right? Everything feels like Donald Trump continues to distract and just throw stuff, right? And hope it sticks. I think, that's exactly what he's doing, but he's doing it in a much dumber way than he had been doing it previously. Or let me say this, he hasn't kept up with the times. I think that's a better way to phrase it. He's using his same media strategy here that he did in 2016, and that has just continued to work for him his whole life. But now where we are in 2026, he wasn't counting on independent media to hold his feet to the fire. He wasn't counting on pro-democracy communities that, quite frankly, I don't think existed in this capacity back in 2016 and even 2020. Where we sit right now, he can only try to distract, quote unquote, people from caring about these stories. When now we've built, the collective we have built these communities to, one, hold each other accountable, but to hold power accountable. And so we're not going to forget. He could try and distract by doing this thing, or arrest Don Lemon, which is a very serious thing and not a funny thing at all, to get people talking about that, or then bombing this country or doing something crazy here. But at the end of the day, we're all collectively in this and are hyper focused on every single issue. And we're not going to let up. We're not going to let anything just go unanswered. We're going to turn over every single rock. Again, the collective we here. I'm excited to get into today's show. Before I toss it over to you, to Benji, I made this bold prediction here for the MeidasTouch Network last episode. Now, within the 30 days, that was 3 days ago, so I guess now 27 days we're going to hit 6 million subscribers to our YouTube channel. We are just 90,000 subscribers away at the time of this recording. I'm feeling bullish. I'm not going to have to shave my head. I think that was the bet that Brett tried to throw in. I'm not going to do it, B, because the Midas Mighty are not going to let us down. We are going to hit 6 million subscribers by the end of this month. So please check to see if you're subscribed. You may think you're subscribed, but you might not actually be. So check to see that you're subscribed to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel right now. Benji, where to, big bro?
The Trump cover-up of the child sex trafficking ring sadly follows a predictable pattern with bad actors. First, they obstruct and refuse to turn over documents. Then they get cornered, and then they do a doc dump. And they will put in the doc dump bad documents to make you think, well, that must be it, because why would they turn this over if they're hiding more? And then they're usually using that doc dump as a moat, if you will. Think about a moat around a castle to hide the real treasure of the most devastating documents. So when people ask me, well, why would they turn that over? Well, because they're probably hiding much worse documents. And if you go back and you read some of the court filings that the Trump DOJ made, they've told federal judges that they are withholding documents on the basis of privilege claims. And a privilege in a lawsuit is a claim that a litigant can assert for not producing documents. Ultimately, a federal judge makes a ruling if a privilege claim is valid or not valid. But here, the Trump regime is banking on the fact that since there's no active case per se, and that the Epstein Transparency Act doesn't have a written private cause of action that says, here's who has standing to sue, that a federal judge can't intervene and make a ruling that a privilege claim is invalid. You'll recall when Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, the Congress members behind the Epstein Transparency Act, filed in federal court in the active federal cases, or inactive in the sense that Epstein is dead and Ghislaine Maxwell is convicted of child sex trafficking. But there has been a lot of activity in those cases in the kind of post-trial motions. But when Massie and Khanna said we need an independent monitor and a special master, remember the Trump DOJ swooped in and said, no special master. These Congress members don't have standing. It's a case between the DOJ and Ghislaine Maxwell, and we don't want a special master. So, Judge, you don't have any authority to appoint an independent monitor or special master, and you don't have any ability to intervene in this, Judge. And remember what the judges said. Unfortunately, I guess that's right. I don't have the ability, even if we want to. But boy, were Massie and Khanna right? They were prescient in making that request. But this is what the DOJ is doing. They want to rule on their own privilege claims. And the types of privilege claims that they're making behind the scenes, and this is why they haven't submitted the report about where their redactions are coming from and what they're withholding. They're claiming deliberative process privilege. That means internal drafts, internal memos within the FBI, inter and intra-office correspondence, attorney-client privilege, work product privilege, executive privilege. So they're making all of these claims to avoid producing those millions of documents, which may be highly, highly relevant. I just want to put that out from the outset. Also, I want to say from the outset that the survivors are absolutely furious right now because they've been outed in these files over and over again. The task that Trump DOJ had since last February is just protect the survivors' names and release all of the files. And instead, the Trump regime is still withholding 3 million plus documents. And that's documents. Those may be 20, 30, 40 pages per document, which is why I say there may be 50 million pages of 3 million documents still outstanding. But you were able to identify the survivors' names, addresses, social security, and other identifying information. There was an entire file that we were able to access at the MeidasTouch Network that had photographs of underage girls and minors that were just out there. And we had to reach out. As much as I didn't want to reach out to the DOJ or have any contact, we flagged it with Aaron Parnas for the DOJ and said, take this down. There's underage girls in your file. What the hell are you doing? And so think about the re-traumatizing of these victims and survivors, that photos of them as underage girls have been produced. So they did that. And then these survivors filed an emergency motion on Monday to the federal judge saying, Judge, please help us. And the federal judge set a status conference for later this week and said, let me try to do what I can, but I don't know what I could even do as a federal judge because our system is based on the concept that the DOJ is supposed to be the good guys and the criminal defendant is adversarial with the presumption of innocence. But in the case of Ghislaine, is a convicted sex trafficker, so is guilty. And the DOJ is supposed to be representing the victims and survivors against the bad guy. But here they're basically on the same team, the DOJ and Ghislaine, and that's not what our system was built on. So the judge is saying, I don't really have the tools. I'm not sure what I can do. So I wanted to give that framework because obviously we'll go through the documents, Brett and Jordy, but I don't think that level of analysis has been explained to people. And so that's why I want to focus there from the outset versus going through the emails and stuff.
And I want to remind people of this incredibly important point. The Deputy Attorney General at the Department of Justice is Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney, Todd Blanche. He's the guy who was trying to get Donald Trump not convicted of crimes. You think he's going to be out there and he's going to be releasing documents and releasing things that could possibly incriminate Donald Trump? Do you think he's going to be doing everything that he has done his entire career with his time with Donald Trump and defending Donald Trump? This DOJ views their job as being Donald Trump's defenders, not defenders of the law, not defenders of the Constitution. And we are seeing that in play with this disastrous release of the Epstein files. Nevertheless, as we've been saying, in this massive document dump, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of really bad stuff about Donald Trump, about Elon Musk, about Howard Lutnick. And I think that one of the big things that sticks out to me as I read this are just the lies. The lies were so apparent. It would be one thing, and that doesn't necessarily make it much better, but it'd be one thing if these people were honest about their associations with Jeffrey Epstein. If Howard Lutnick actually was honest about his associations with Jeffrey Epstein. If Elon Musk was actually honest about it. But these people all did the same kind of lies. If you remember, there was a clip from a podcast with the New York Post, a journalist that Howard Lutnick was on, that we posted on MeidasTouch. We played it on the show a few months back, where Howard Lutnick was talking about Epstein, and they were like, oh, so you know Epstein. Howard Lutnick was like Epstein's neighbor and like bought the house that Epstein used to live in or something. And Howard Lutnick's like, oh yeah, I went into a party in 2005. I saw the guy. It was I knew right away when I saw him, he was disgusting. He was disgusting. I said, never call me again. I don't want to talk to you ever again. Right? It was Lutnick. And then
it wasn't even a party, Brett. He said that Epstein knocked to give him a tour of the house as neighbors because they lived together lived next to each other for like a decade. And he said, I get in there. And Epstein said, you like that massage table right there? And I said, why do you have a massage table in the center of your place? And Epstein said, you know, the kind of massages I like, right, Howard? And I said, ugh, you disgusting. So I went to my wife and I told my wife, that man is a disgusting animal. And I never talked to him ever again.
That's a really good Lutnick. And sure enough,
like an A++ Lutnick.
You've been working on it, I could tell. And sure enough, a decade later, he's still talking to Howard Lutnick. And we see it in the emails that they literally made plans for Howard Lutnick or he's still talking to Jeffrey Epstein. You see plans, Howard Lutnick going to Epstein's island. Epstein's asking him if he's bringing children with him. Lutnick says, I think he was like bringing his whole family with him. And then there's an email that comes after the kind of plans are made, which basically confirms, or appears to confirm, I should say, that Lutnick actually did go to the island on this occasion, where they said, it was nice seeing you there. Jeffrey wanted me to pass this message along. Nice seeing you, Howard. And so we saw that with him. We see it with Elon Musk, where Elon's like Jeffrey Epstein, Jeffrey, I really need to let loose this weekend. Work is stressing me out. Could you please tell me what day your wildest parties on the island are going to be? I would really like to go to your wildest parties. These are all people who have been pretending like, oh, once I learned about that guy, I was disgusted and I'm never going to ever associate myself with the guy. But as I was saying, as you look at this, I think there's the sex trafficking operation angle of this, which is depraved and appalling and horrifying. And then there, I think, is a broader story that was being told, especially in this latest email batch. And it's a story about power. And I think, when you speak about things like rape or sexual assault, oftentimes, I would say all the time, it's not about sex. It's about power. It's about dominance. And these emails reveal a culture of people who are predators, who are preying on everybody, almost the entire world. Donald Trump spoke about this idea of a deep state when he was running. Well, I think one of the most revealing things that at least comes to the surface for me when I'm reading these emails is that it seems like there was this network, this web of these elites, these powerful people. And you had people like Jeffrey Epstein. You had people like then Prince Andrew. You had, prime minister of this country, prime minister of that country, the head of the CIA here. You had all of these leaders in all of these countries that were using Jeffrey Epstein as an intermediary to get things done. And they were all using each other for favors. And Epstein would help people get certain jobs in certain places when they had issues. When there was people who needed attorneys because they were accused of sexual assault themselves, Epstein would try to help them out with that. And he would hang these kind of favors over people's head in order to get things that he wants for powerful people. And he developed this Rolodex with all of this powerful people. And it is my belief that they were really shaping global events within their network and using their leverage over each other to do it. So, I mean, some of the biggest events they were talking about in some of these emails, like toppling governments. I'm talking like really, really big, serious things. And I think Epstein was an essential part. It was like the nexus of all of that. But I think all roads basically pointed back to Epstein and pointed back to Trump. And these files were incredibly revealing in showing this power structure, which I feel like a lot of people kind of instinctually, think exists and know exists. But when you actually see it like that, and when you hear it in the recordings and see it in the videos, I think it takes on a whole other light. There was a recording, quite, a decently long recording with Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, that was in these documents. And one of the interesting things about this was it was like a few months before he was going to be out of power, or maybe even just a few weeks. And he's talking to Jeffrey Epstein, and he's basically going to Epstein for advice. This was the then prime minister of Israel. How do I make money off this position once I leave this office? How do I profit off my power? And you would think when someone's asking for job advice, you'd say, well, what are you good at? Do you got any skills? Got any hobbies? How do you want to live it? You're 70, whatever years old. How do you want to live the rest of your life? You tell me. But Epstein's immediate advice to him was, give me a list of all the people you know, who owes you favors, who did you wrong, who did you help out. And it really gives you a mindset. This is how you're going to make money. I know Tony Blair's making X million dollars. I know this person's making X million dollars a year. I could get that for you, but I'm going to need you to give me those names of the people who owe you things. And it's really just a window into the psychology of the way that these people operate, the way these networks operate, and how they do so in a way that enriches themselves at the expense of the people. And when you look at all these events over the past few years, past decade plus, when you look at events like Brexit, right? Like I'm talking major global events, you see that it was this group of people tied to Jeffrey Epstein and these associates and people like Steve Bannon and people like Peter Thiel and people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Prince Andrew and Lord Mendelsohn in the UK, and you name it. It was all these people who were involved in shaping the course of our history and leading to where we are today. I almost had an epiphany, like, shit's so crazy right now. And as I was reading these things, I'm like, is it because of all of these people? Are they the ones who put us on this path? It's truly, truly mind-blowing stuff. And I know Ben's gone into greater detail in all of his hot takes, which are all incredible, and you should watch and listen to them. But this is honestly jaw-dropping stuff, which I think is even greater, like a much bigger deal and a much bigger story than it's even often presented as.
Brilliant, Brett. I think you're absolutely onto something there, no doubt about it. And Benji, your breakdowns on this entire saga have been so fascinating to listen to and just so brilliant as well. And to Brett's point, please, if you haven't watched Ben's videos on all of this, he breaks it down in a way where I like to say anybody could really understand the connections to all of this. So Benji, kudos to you, big bro. Brett, I want to quickly go back to the Lutnick and Trump relationship of it all, specifically how they always make themselves the hero in their own stories, especially as it relates to Epstein, right? What was Trump's thing? I kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. I kicked him.
Mike Johnson said he was an FBI informant actually helping them. I mean,
exactly. Trump's an FBI informant. Trump kicks him out of Mar-a-Lago. What a hero. Lutnick. Lutnick and those spidey sense instincts of his. The first day he met him, he went to his wife, said, "No, this guy's a sleazebag. We're not going in there." Lo and behold, communications decades later shows that they're buddies, apparently. I mean, what other conclusion can you draw there? It's because there's not an honest bone in any of these people's bodies. These people will do whatever it takes to continue to enrich themselves at the expense of anybody else. And really, like, the really disgusting portion of it here is that how they decided apparently to kind of, and I'm talking about like the real like deal, like the Epstein, all of that, like the Epstein inner circle is how they just, there's a human element to all of this is what I'm getting at. And what these men did, and I'm not saying Lutnick in particular, that's not what I'm saying here. But what these men did to these girls on Epstein's Island and how they abused these girls and how they raped these children, to me, is just utterly appalling. And now we, come decades later and the information's getting out there. And now just the re-traumatization of it all with the mishandling of the Epstein file released to me is just absolutely disgusting. And the fact that they just can't own that they are fumbling the release of these files, that they aren't doing their due diligence, trying to protect the victims to me is just so, again, disgusting and upsetting for so many different ways. I don't know how you feel about Benj. Well, I do know how you feel about it, actually. But like, for you, when you see the mishandling of these documents, to me, it almost feels intentional with just how poorly the redactions are and what we're seeing come out. Can you comment from like your lawyer side of it, just how badly they're fumbling this?
This is a simple document production. It's actually not complex at all. Every day, back when we had competent federal prosecutors, and for any civil litigators out there watching this who handle complex cases involving financial fraud or what have you, you deal with terabytes of documents all the time. The number 3 to 5 million documents or pages, in my world when I was a litigator, that's actually not a lot of documents. Why? You work with teams of people to review them. You use search tools that help you. You do it every day, and you just sit down and review it. It's not all that hard. You know, if you have a team of 5 people, right? Some of these emails and text messages are short. Some of the pages are long because it has a lot of filler or news articles or things that aren't necessarily relevant. So you start to see these patterns when you do your document review. And so, you know, typically for me, a 3 to 5 terabyte doc review, which may be 5 to 10 million documents, is a 60-day to 75-day task. So if you told me I had until February to January 31st of the next year to do this, plus I had 250 lawyers, maybe more, because if you believe the DOJ, they claimed they had 1,000 lawyers working on this back last year, 1,000. I would tell you this is a 30-day task. It's easy. But also you have no leadership at the DOJ. You have horrible actors at the DOJ. You've got Donald Trump's criminal defense team at the DOJ. And so that's why you have the outcomes that you do. A few other points I just want to make, though. Howard Lutnick received $50,000 apparently from Epstein in 2017 when Lutnick received some award. So that communication was happening at least through 2017. So I just want to talk about that. In terms of some of these other events, you have Epstein speaking with people at the highest level about things like Brexit, Putin's annexation of Crimea, Jair Bolsonaro, the right-wing extremist kind of dictator guy who took over Brazil and was their Trump, was their MAGA puppet that Bannon helped implement, and Bannon was instrumental in getting Bolsonaro elected there, and talks about it in the messages with Epstein as they're talking about toppling world governments. So you have Bolsonaro who's mentioned. You have Epstein talking about getting Putin involved in lots of different things, including Bitcoin. Back in 2013 and 2014, lots of Bitcoin talk. You have Prime Minister Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel. You have the former Prime Minister of Norway, Thorbjørn Jagland, who was also the Secretary General of the Council of Europe from 2009 to 2019. You had Sultan bin Sulayman, a royal affiliated person in the United Arab Emirates. Interesting, because we're going to talk later in this episode about Trump's current connections and receiving lots of money from the UAE. And they're talking at the highest level with Epstein as the main connector about world events. And in my opinion, and I'm not suggesting any specific person or this or that or the other, I'm just saying more broadly when I look through these files, the sex trafficking is the currency that was used by Epstein and other predators in order to transact and blackmail each other. And that was part of this as well. It was the currency which was used to transact on their world agenda. throughout all of these issues that I'm talking about here. Now, I want to mention this, and then we'll get into some more very much specifics. But you have allegations against Donald Trump, like the following, and there's FBI spreadsheets and presentations. The MeidasTouch got it right away, and then the DOJ took it down, and they had to put it back up because we already put it on our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. But there are allegations like this about Trump. Jane Doe stated Epstein introduced her to Trump, who subsequently forced her head down his exposed penis, which is subsequently bit. In response, Trump punched her in the head and kicked her out. Or Jane Doe, remember, Epstein introduced her to Trump, saying, "This is a good one, huh?" And Trump responded, "Yes." And there are lots of other stuff I could go through. I've done this on all the other videos, but there's lots of stuff. And to be clear, these are allegations, right? They don't appear to have been fully investigated the way they should have been, but these are allegations. But there's, again, 38,000 references to Donald Trump and 5,000 files. And Trump's closest people were involved, talking about Trump and oral sex with people in the White House. I mean, you have Bannon saying things to Epstein about blowjobs and things like that, which, this is in the files. And, when Donald Trump says this has completely vindicated me, the hell are you talking about? There's sick and disgusting stuff in there, and we know that more stuff is still being hidden. And then you layer on top of that, not in a conspiratorial way, Epstein was listed by confidential informants to the FBI as Putin's money manager. A confidential source that the FBI was working with called him Putin's money manager. He says he's Putin's money manager, the money manager of Zimbabwe and other world leaders as well. Right in 2016, when Russia hacked the DNC and released all of those files on WikiLeaks, you had Epstein doing lots of meetings at that time with Russian diplomats and Russian people at that time, all kind of taking place right there. And again, you can go and watch the deep dives where I read the messages. I go one after another. And so I'll show you how Donald Trump is responding to this. And I'll show you how he's responding to all of these things by saying, if anything, it's Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton looks like the bad one in here. Let's be clear. Bill Clinton does look pretty bad in files, he's hanging around on Epstein a lot. That's not a good look by any means. Trump's like the main person referenced. Bannon's one of the main people referenced, and Putin's referenced over and over again.
And the crazy thing about the Bannon, obviously, is it's during Trump's presidency.
During the presidency. And they're talking about giving information to Trump, what Trump knows, very detailed stuff during the first administration about what was going on. All right. Let's take our first quick break of the show. On that note, reminder, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us get to 6 million subscribers. Let's try to get there this month. Jordy predicts we will. Help us get there. Become a member, join the YouTube channel, and gift memberships to others. That helps us grow. Subscribe on audio in addition to our YouTube page, and check out MeidasPlus.com. MeidasPlus.com is our Substack. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
That sluggish, heavy feeling that hits right after the holidays when you're off your routine, your energy's all over the place, and you feel like you need a hard reset? That was me, and honestly, I didn't want another resolution that I'd abandoned by February. I wanted something structured, something that actually works. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet makes it incredibly easy to reset your body, habits, and energy heading into the new year. It works at the cellular level to rejuvenate you from within, supporting fat loss, glowing skin, and sharper focus. And because it's a simple, structured plan, you can build real momentum in just a few days. Every new year, we all say we want to move more, lose weight, eat eat better, but willpower alone just doesn't cut it. Prolon's fasting mimicking diet is a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes your body while keeping it in a fasting state. It's based on more than 2 decades of research developed with USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top medical centers. It's been shown to support fat-focused weight loss, energy, metabolic health, skin appearance, all the things we need coming out of the holidays. And the best part is how easy it is. With Prolon, you get everything prepackaged and ready to go. Each kit comes with 5 boxes labeled by day so you know exactly what to eat. No planning, no guesswork. Plus, 3 consecutive cycles of Prolon have been shown to reduce your biological age score by an average of 2.5 years and your waist circumference by 1.5 inches. I use this and you should too. Just in time for the new year, Prolon is offering Meidas listeners 15% off their 5-day nutrition program for your post-holiday glow up when you go to prolonlife.com/Meidas. That's PROLON life.com/Meidas, MEIDAS for 15% off. prolonlife.com/Meidas.
What's one non-negotiable before a first date? Deodorant. Mando's whole body deodorant is safe to use anywhere on your body, and I mean anywhere. Mando was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Mando has options to choose from, like their solid deodorant stick, formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts, or their spray deodorant, aluminum-free and ideal for hard-to-reach places. I'm personally a stick guy myself, but both options are amazing. You can choose from a variety of fresh scents like bourbon leather, clover woods, Mount Fiji, or Pro Sport. Mando is clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle odor level was a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average grundle odor level is a 0 out of 10. Some men mask their BO with sense. Mando men get the job done right. Don't mask it, Mando it. Available in retailers near you, or head to shopmando.com because for a limited time, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code Meidas. Use code Meidas at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide and free shipping. shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them MeidasTouch sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Really quick, Benji, few quick housekeeping notes. I got some feedback when I actioned the audio listeners last week to leave a review because, again, I felt bad like I was leaving them out of all the fun that we have on the live show. Audio listeners, again, thank you so much. We got a way more reviews. That's awesome. Let's keep it going, though. We're so close to hitting 50,000 reviews on audio, and I really want to do that. Please leave 5 stars and a review. It really helps us in the algorithm. Last thing, Benji, really quickly. So as our listeners know, this is going to be just like a little lighter note here. I live in Pittsburgh. I love living in Pittsburgh. I've been here now for about 5 years. We had a really big snowstorm the other day, and my mind's blown. I'm open to this whole new thing called a parking chair. So apparently when it snows in Pittsburgh, we're still recovering from, it was a big storm. Folks, I went to the city, and then folks who were outside their apartments, if they shovel their spots, that's their spot. And they put we have a photo of it. They put a parking chair of it. And by the way, I'm not bad mouthing the parking chair. I respect this a lot. So if you shovel out your spot next to your apartment, that's all yours. I had no idea this was a thing. I was driving around and I'm like, why are there so many chairs just off the side of the road? I'm trying to find a parking spot. My wife's like, it's a parking chair. Duh. Didn't you have this growing up? I'm like, no, we didn't. And so I posted it onto Threads, and it's a thing. It's totally a thing. You can't touch somebody's parking chair. Otherwise, you're a jagoff. You don't do it. Apparently, parking chairs are also relevant in Chicago and Philly. So if you are familiar with the parking chair trend, let me know. Let me know where you're from and if you do this, because my mind's blown. I love it. I'm all for it. I want that to be clear. All right, Benji, now that that's out of the way.
I'm really not sure even how I could top that after that parking chair. How am I gonna even?
You didn't know I was going to talk parking chairs.
How am I going to take command of the show and talk about the news of it's I'm going to do I'm just kidding. That's how the brothers get along. I'm not teasing Jordy. No comments about bullying Jordy, and we feel bad for Jordy. Jordy and I are very, very good. All right, let's take a look though about what went down in the Oval Office today, where Donald Trump said the DOJ should just move on from Epstein. It's done. No one's talking about it anymore. We're good, right? We're good. And obviously, they're covering up much more. Go back to what I said at the beginning. This is kind of textbook 101, how bad actors behave. And it's done in almost a way that feels like parody because it's so obvious, like you couldn't script it more. But here's what Donald Trump says. Let's play it.
That have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do, because that whole thing has turned out, other than Bill Clinton and, Bill Gates and lots of people there are a lot of questions about it, but nothing on me. But it was even sort of better than that, because they found that Jeffrey Epstein and this sleazebag writer named Michael Wolff were conspiring against Donald Trump to lose the election. So Epstein was conspiring with a writer for me to lose the election. So right there, that I had nothing to do with this guy. But yeah, it's a terrible thing. The amount of time that's being wasted. When Epstein was alive, like 10 years ago, nobody cared about it. But they're only doing it. But now it's really hitting back on them because Bill Clinton is such a big part of it. The Democrats are pushing it. And the problem is that it's turning out to be the Democrats that were with and conspired with Epstein. So I think you're probably going to see a little pullback from them. But think of it. They were working together to try and help me lose the election. But this is the Oval Office, so I guess that didn't work out too well. Okay, one more.
38,000 references to Donald Trump on 5,000 documents. Okay? When he says these things, objectively, I don't again care what political party you're from. This is not political. This vile individual who's sitting there in the Oval Office is just a massive liar. What aspect is he lying about? Quite literally everything that comes out of his mouth. He's acting like he's vindicated. He's telling the DOJ to move on. No one cares about this. Should be noted that former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, according to reporting earlier today, they're going to be testifying. They've agreed to show up and testify before the House Oversight Committee. There's really no significant precedent for having someone like Hillary Clinton testify or a former president testify in this situation. They've tried to negotiate in good faith the terms of the deposition, but they're showing up. So if they're showing up, shouldn't Donald Trump have to sit for a deposition? Or does James Comer say, well, that's unfair at this point. Why would we do that? He's vindicated, right? You have, Brett, do we have the clip of Mike Johnson from this weekend where he was on the weekend shows and he was out there? He was asked, so do you think there are questions about Trump, or what do you make of the fact that he's on there? No, I've been satisfied. I think we're good. We're good to move on. Come on, how weak and pathetic are you? Here, play this clip of MAGA Mike Johnson if we've got it.
President Trump's name appears throughout the Epstein files, including in many of the new documents released this week. Now, we want to stress appearing in the Epstein files does not amount to or imply criminal wrongdoing. But do you have any outstanding questions, given that, about the relationship between President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein?
I do not. I've spoken to the president about this privately and personally many times, and he's spoken very candidly and openly to the public. He says the same things privately that he does publicly. He's never had any concern about that. Remember, President Trump was one of the first people that called Epstein out, and he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, off the property, because he heard of some of the nefarious things he was engaged in. He's never had any concern about that at all.
He did at one point call these files a Democratic hoax. But let me ask you about something.
Well, what he said specifically was the hoax of the Democrats trying to turn this into a political issue and use it against him.
Let's be clear. The Mar-a-Lago spa was brought to Epstein's home. Epstein didn't even have to go to the spa. Trump and Mar-a-Lago sent the spa to Epstein. And there are messages throughout about Epstein back-channeling communications, whether, potentially to Trump, about going to Mar-a-Lago in 2012 or being invited over there. Again, all of these relationships with people in the Trump regime. I mean, it's so evil what these people are doing right here. So
let me just show you. I just want to show you this one before you move on, because he brought up other people in the Trump regime. Let me show you just this back-to-back exchange with Steve Bannon quickly. And there are so many messages. And when I say so many, I mean hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of messages between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein, all very recent. And let me show you this one, just because I think it sums it up. Epstein says, "Of course, if you think I can be helpful in strategizing, you are welcome to come to Palm Beach. My plane will fly you home for the holidays if you like." And Bannon says, "You are always helpful, Obi-Wan Kenobi." I mean, if that doesn't show you the friendly relationship that these with one another while Donald Trump was in office, that was 2018. 2018. I cannot even you cannot talk about the depravity enough here of what was going on.
Well, here's the thing too, right? Let's assume Donald Trump is not in the files 38,000 times and 5,000. Let's assume that's not the case. But you learn that Steve Bannon was having all of these communications with Epstein about figuring out ways to utilize your first administration to be involved in all of these geopolitical outcomes, and that there were all of these communications happening, right? As a leader, wouldn't you condemn Bannon in a situation? Let's assume you truly had nothing to do, because why would you want to associate with someone then who objectively is all over this? By the way, there's messages from Bannon to Epstein in April of 2019, a few months before Epstein is arrested, saying, let's come up with a plan to rehabilitate your image. Let's make sure that people stop calling you pedo, and we'll figure out the best way to rebrand you as a philanthropist right here. And let's rebuild your image, right? This is Bannon to Epstein, April 2019 in text messages. And again, there's so much stuff about Trump. Now, if you're Trump, and you have to comment about Bannon today, and you're a leader because that person worked with you, who's all over the files, wouldn't you condemn it? No, here was Donald Trump's post about Bannon today. He posted a photo of Bannon and says, "Two very good guys who were treated so unfairly by Sleepy Joe Biden, but now they are bigger than ever. DJT." So you're praising Bannon. And by the way, it's not like Trump posts photos about Bannon all the time. It's like the first time he's posted about Bannon in a long time. So obviously Donald Trump is communicating. It's like, we're not stupid. We know what you're doing, right? He's communicating with Bannon and basically saying, you still got a place with me. You're still my friend, right? We're good. I got your back. Don't screw me over. That's clearly what the message is by posting that photo. Are we supposed to be so dumb to be like, I wonder why he posted about Steve Bannon today? Oh, what a coincidence. And that's why these MAGA Mike Johnson and all these MAGA scumbags just piss me off. And it's, again, not a political thing. These are just scumbags. These are thugs. These are evil, evil people involved in depravity. That's why I don't like them. I don't care that they're Republican or these are bad humans who are either the stupidest humans ever, or they're so malicious and they think we're so stupid. By the way, here was Donald Trump in the Oval Office today too, suggesting he was going to sue Trevor Noah for mocking Donald Trump during the Grammys. But Donald Trump refers to Epstein's Island as Jeffries. Jeffries Island. Your pledge.
It's what you call a tell, folks.
They want to see a shutdown in.
Mr. President, are you going to sue Trevor Noah? Last night in a post, you alluded that something could be coming.
Yeah, well, he said that I spent time on Jeffrey Epstein's island. I didn't. I mean, he's a lightweight, this guy. He's a terrible, I think he's terrible. I thought he did a terrible job at the Grammys. I thought the whole Grammys was terrible. I watched part of it. It's not watchable. But he was a lousy host. I'd say not as bad as Jimmy Kimmel, but pretty close. And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing.
Jeffries. I want to let me show one other clip right now.
Hey, when we were hanging on J-Dog's boat, when we were on the J-Dog's island, what was that? I mean Epstein's island. Epstein. Sorry,
Jeffrey Epstein.
Old habits kick in sometimes.
Also, I thought comedy was legal again. I thought comedy was.
This sums up everything as well, though. Take a look at this as Donald Trump talks about the Wall Street Journal report about his family being funneled $500 million from the United Arab Emirates, or the UAE family, and the person they call the spy sheikh, because he's taking our classified information and potentially giving it to China. So they call him the spy sheikh. Well, that was the concern, at least, that prior administrations had, why they didn't give semiconductor classified data to the United Arab Emirates, because they said the UAE is just going to give it right to China. Okay. And let me be clear, when the Trump regime says, we're not worried about that, we've got the safeguards in place to track and prevent that technology. Y'all can't even redact documents appropriately in the Epstein files. You think that you're going to be able to track United Arab Emirates semiconductor chips being laundered to China through a covert black market? Yeah, I don't think you guys have the capability. There we go. But here's what Donald Trump says when he's confronted about a fact that his family got paid $500 million, where their company with Witkoff didn't even really have a product at the time. They just got $500 million. And thereafter, the UAE gets this incredible classified information that has now sabotaged our national security. Let's play it.
Mr. President, the Wall Street Journal reported that the royal family of Abu Dhabi invested hundreds of millions of dollars in your World Liberty Financial. Can you explain why you decided to take that investment? Was that a transaction?
Well, I don't know about it. I know that crypto is a big thing and they like it. A lot of people like it. The people behind me like it. My sons are handling that. My family is handling it. And I guess they get investments from different people, but I'm not. I have all I can handle right now with.
Pull up the graphic, World Liberty Financial and who's involved in it. Donald Trump, Eric Trump, Don Jr., Barron Trump, Steve Witkoff, Zach Witkoff, Alex Witkoff. Again, don't treat us like we're stupid. I don't know anything about that. I don't know what you don't know that you made $500 million from the United Arab Emirates personally, and then you visited the United Arab Emirates and gave them our classified semiconductor chips, and you've now sabotaged our national security. You don't know that. That's new data for you. That's new information. And again, let me say the following. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, or independent. That right there is just a liar. That's the liar who has bankrupted casino after casino, company after company, and has destroyed lives his entire life. That is the liar who just destroyed the Kennedy Center, a crown jewel and national treasure, as the performers canceled, the staff quit, and nobody attended after he vandalized it by putting his name on. It's just objective facts that we're told. I don't know anything about that. Shut up. Just enough. And people here in the United States are psychologically tortured, living paycheck to paycheck, if they're lucky enough to get a paycheck, as they're being left behind in this disastrous economy where right-wing oligarchs are sucking up all of the resources, where we have a jobs recession right now, where America has killed its alliances abroad, where healthcare has been ripped away from people. And guess what else? Donald Trump sues his own IRS for $10 billion. He sues our government. The IRS is under the Treasury Department. So the defendant It's Donald Trump versus Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And Trump is now entering into a settlement agreement with himself for $10 billion of our taxpayer money to go to him. So when you pay your taxes, which Donald Trump, he pays $0 in taxes. And that's what was uncovered when Donald Trump's taxes were leaked like 10 years ago. And that's why he says his reputation was harmed when every other president released their tax returns except for him. And now he says his reputation was harmed. When you pay your taxes and actually pay them, the fact that it's now going to pay Donald Trump to settle his phony and frivolous cases while you're suffering in this economy, while he's screwing you over. Again, I don't care what political party you're from. That should piss you off. And it pissed off people in Texas State Senate District 10. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what took place there. State Senate District, was it 9 or 10? State Senate District 9 or 10, which flipped Democrat. It was a plus 17 Trump district. It went plus 14 in favor of the Democrat. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Trump shutting down the Kennedy Center and more. Let's take a Senate District 9. Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. A reminder, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel and make sure you are also subscribed to our Substack, Meidas Plus, and subscribe on audio as well. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are the delicious low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The new year means a clean slate. Time to transform frustration into fuel. Empower your day with IQ Bar. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ Bars, 8 IQ Mix Sticks, and 4 IQ Joe Sticks. All IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. Start carrying IQ Bar's plant protein bars in your bag. They're the smarter snack choice with plenty of plant protein, tons of fiber, and no added sugar. Committed to working out this year? Great. Make sure to rehydrate after your workout with IQ Mix, a zero sugar drink mix that hydrates with electrolytes, improves mood, and boosts clarity. The new year gives us all a chance to reset. Maximize your brain and body's potential with IQ Bars, protein bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. I always make a New Year's resolution, but never stick to it. This year will be different because I'll have the help of IQ Bar. Whether it's starting my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ Bar or IQ Mix to refuel or rehydrate after a hard workout. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text TRUTH to 64,000. Text TRUTH to 64,000. That's TRUTH to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Ever wake up sweaty, freezing, or just uncomfortable? The temperature in your bedroom can make or break your sleep. That's why I switched to Miracle Made sheets. They're inspired by NASA technology and use silver-infused temperature-regulating fabric to help you sleep perfectly all night long. Miracle Made sheets feel just as good, if not better, than sheets you'd find at a 5-star hotel, but without the steep price tag. Smooth, breathable, and ridiculously comfortable. Thanks to their antibacterial silver technology, Miracle Made sheets stay cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than regular sheets. That means fewer odors, fewer wash cycles, and way less laundry. All that hidden bacteria in regular sheets, it can clog your pores and cause breakouts. Miracle Made's antibacterial design helps you sleep cleaner and clearer night after night. Miracle Made sheets are crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature. Hot sleeper, cold sleeper, it doesn't matter. These sheets help keep you in the comfort zone all night long. Upgrade your sleep or give the gift of better rest. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40%, and when you use the promo code Meidas, you'll get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make for an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/Meidas, code Meidas at checkout. Thanks to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in the description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. I do not have another parking chair story coming back from this break. So
good. It was a good story.
Way more common, by the way,
story.
just so the audio listeners know. People in the chat were like, we use parking chairs. So I was out of loop. I'm not talking bad about parking chairs.
You're concerned about parking chairs. I'm nose deep in the Epstein files. I mean, you know, we all have our, I got to say, when I was looking through the files and everything, like, you really feel like a crazy person when you're looking through these files, because it's like all of these things that you think that might be happening or things that has always felt funny. You're like, oh, here it is in writing. Like, this is actually real. This is actually crazy. And it was just honestly like a really kind of just dark and horrifying experience going through these things. Because you even see like random people you don't expect, right? Like there was an email about Joe Manchin. And you're like, you know, Joe Manchin, that guy was so annoying. He, you know, blocked Biden's agenda. He blocked so many good things from happening. Why was he behaving so funny, right? And then you learn that, like, he's in the files. And I'm not saying he did anything wrong or anything, but I'm just saying, apparently Joe Manchin was, Epstein was involved trying to get a yacht for then Senator Joe Manchin so that he could host a boating party for 22 people in the Virgin Islands. This is something that's in the Epstein files. And I just kept seeing that all these people who you're like, why did they turn? Why did they become the way that they are today? How did they kind of go down this weird path? RFK Jr., I could tell you the RFK Jr. story if Ben lets me. But, you know, all of these things, you know, you see what's in the files here and you're like, holy crap. Okay. It's all connected. All these people are intertwined. And there's something else at play here where you almost get the sense that these people are just all protecting each other and are doing everything they can to just do whatever they can to avoid getting into trouble themselves, and also just to gain as much power and money and wealth that they can as possible.
It's not even a smoking gun. The gun is on fire, the proverbial gun in this. When you go through those emails, Brett, Ben, Meidas Mighty, jaw dropping.
But, you know, and people's reaction though too, Brett, to your message, you know, we don't know what happened on the yacht. We don't know if the yacht was rented. We don't know. Like, so let's be clear. But why is the senator from West Virginia talking about yachts off the coast of the Virgin Island? And there's so much of that right now. We're connecting this to the suffering of people here in the United States, and how these elites and these oligarchs have been sucking up the resources and the futures of people. And when you see what's going on in these messages, the level of disdain and hatred for other people who are just trying to go and live their lives, right? You know, and live with their families and go to the parks or see a movie or have brunch with each other, right? And have hobbies, while you have, you know, quite literally, you know, an Epstein and Bannon and all of these people like trying to puppeteer destruction and devastation amongst people's lives. And people like, I just want to live my life right now. And I think that part is important to mention, you know, which to me actually connects to Trump shutting down the Kennedy Center. And one of the things that Trump says is it wasn't profitable. It wasn't profitable. And so I have to shut it down. First off, it's a memorial for former President Kennedy, who was shot and killed, assassinated. It's a memorial, and it's a nonprofit. Not everything has to make profits. It's a nonprofit, but it had net income of $40 million. So it was actually not losing money. So with everything Trump says, you always have to like look at the data. So I wanted to just look at it and say, what were the expenses? What was the revenue? The revenue, because I think I have to give you the facts. And if it was like losing all of this money, by the way, I'd be okay with it. Because it's a nonprofit, and its goal, sometimes things don't have to make money. Sometimes things can bring cultural enrichment and inclusiveness and bring people together. And that could be the purpose of something. That's okay. In fact, that's laudable. And sometimes, but its revenue was $306 million. Its operating expenses were $266 million. So it had net income of $40 million. So it was actually being run pretty efficiently, and people liked the Kennedy Center. And Hamilton played there, and some of the most interesting and exciting and well-known orchestras and symphonies played there. And then Trump goes, I'm shutting it down for maybe 2 years, maybe longer, I don't know. And Trump says it was a disaster, it's doing horrible, so I'm shutting it down. You're shutting it down? And again, just add it to the list of lots of other Trump things that have been shut down and destroyed. So look, people are fed up with it. So go to Texas State Senate District number 9. Apologies for calling it 10. It's number 9, where you had this election between a Democratic candidate there, Taylor Remmett, who beat the MAGA candidate Lee Wamsgans. Now, Donald Trump endorsed Wamsgans. The Ultra MAGA is on her bio. Ultra MAGA. This was a plus 17 Trump district in 2024. I mean, Trump endorsed over and over again. I know her. I support her. She's amazing. Don't let me down. Make sure you elect her. I mean, messages profusely endorsing her over and over again. She loses. No one expected it. MAGA Republicans put $2.5 million into that race, which was basically $2.5 million more than the Democrats put in there. And it wasn't a low voter turnout issue. It was that independents almost all went Democrat, which is what we've been seeing in a lot of these special elections. And a good chunk of Republicans voted Democrat. You had the Democratic candidate Remmett. He was talking about workers' rights, affordability, kitchen table issues. The MAGA candidate, social issues, and I'm here to be Donald Trump's rubber stamp. And the people of Texas State Senate District 9 rejected it. And what's really important, I think, as well, because Trump and Abbott gerrymandered Texas the way they did, believing they would create 5 new Republican congressional seats there. In order to do that, you have to dilute and remove people from existing Republican seats to try to get rid of the blue seats. So seats that were maybe plus 16, you may reduce them to plus 8 in order to turn a Democratic seat into, say, a plus 4 or 5 Republican, because you have to remove people and put people in other districts. So now there are all of these districts that are below plus 15 because Trump and MAGA were going by the 2024 results when they also won a lot of Hispanic votes in the state of Texas, where their approval amongst Hispanic voters now, Trump and MAGA, is like 25% to 24% approval. Some of the highest net negatives ever. Even worse than in the past, before Donald Trump lied and was able to rally some Hispanic voters. So if what occurred in the state Senate District 9, if you repeat that and had a plus, let's just say you had a plus, if you had a plus 31 over performance, then all of these seats are going to go, like every single one, like including ones that no one even expected would go Democrat in Texas. But let's just say you did a plus 14 over performance, not a plus 31, plus 14, plus 15, plus 16 over performance. All those plus 10s, you're going to flip right now. But let's take a look at what Donald Trump said in the Oval when he was in Mar-a-Lago over the weekend, when he was asked about that Texas State Senate District race. Let's play it. If we got that clip.
Mr. President, on Texas, a Democrat won your special election in an area that you had won by 17 points. What is your reaction to that?
I don't know. I didn't hear about it. Somebody ran where?
In Texas, a special election for legislative
the 9th state Senate seat.
I'm not involved in that. That's a local Texas race.
Did you endorse the Republican?
You mean I won by 17
You did.
and this person lost? Things like that happen.
Does it worry you about the
Well, you don't know whether or not it's transferable. You know, I'm not on the ballot, so you don't know whether or not it's transferable. But, you know, You put the Democrats in, you'll end up with open borders again. You'll end up with crime all over the place. We have no crime anymore. And, I mean, think of it. The country has the lowest crime it's had in 125 years in recorded history. The year 1900. That's a long time ago. So it's very good. No, I don't know anything about it. I didn't know. I mean, I know there's a race going there. And it's too bad. What can I say? I have nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Brett and Jordy, let me toss it over to you. But the theme I want to share with you in this episode, Epstein, I know nothing about it. I had nothing to do with it. United Arab Emirates getting hundreds of millions of dollars personally directed to him, and then giving our classified semiconductor information over to the United Arab Emirates. I know nothing about it. I don't know anything. I know nothing about it. He loses the race that he endorsed on. I know nothing about it. I don't know nothing about it. I don't even know who she is. Now, we showed you all of the data throughout this episode that he's on the files 38,000 times. We know that he's on the board because there's websites that have his face on it, and you would know if you brought in $500 million for yourself. And we're showing you his endorsements that he made. I could do this on any issue. But I hope the point I'm making on this episode is one that actually isn't partisan at all, but is factual. By the way, partisan could also be factual, but what I'm explaining to you is that set aside your politics. I've showed you 3 egregious lies. Corruption, Epstein, losing. What more do you need to be lied to your face before you go, yeah, you think I'm stupid?
The only other thing that I want to add is on many of these episodes, I've talked about how these billionaires have put forth a concerted effort to control the flow of communications, to own the TV networks, to own the social media apps, to take over all the ways that you are receiving your information. Look what just happened with TikTok, right? Now, I want to take that and I want to line that up with some of the other things we learned in the Epstein files, because I think they actually match up. And I think it's part of this kind of brainwashing and the lying that we see from Donald Trump. And that's that there are, when you look at the Epstein files, you see that Epstein was having these meetings with the people who created the 4chan politics board. That was a big way that a lot of this disinformation spread before the 2016 election, especially. It was like a main source, and it continues to be a main source of a lot of crazy stuff that comes out there. And Epstein, allegedly, it appears that he played a big role in all of that. It appears that Epstein played some sort of role in the WikiLeaks stuff. We've learned through these documents that Ghislaine Maxwell was a Reddit moderator. She was a moderator on Reddit, controlling what content people see and what content people don't see. I mean, just think about how crazy that is. Then we obviously see that Elon Musk, we know that he purchased Twitter. He's all over the files. We see that Peter Thiel, who is all over the files. He controls a lot of the flow of information. He, started Palantir and all this other stuff. So we see all of these figures out there, and we, in some cases, are able to transparently see their takeover of these media companies and social media apps. And in some cases, we just don't know. You don't necessarily know who's the person running 4chan. Have they met with Jeffrey Epstein in secret or whatever it is, right? But this is more proof that that's what's happening. And so when you're on these social media apps, when you get hit with a deluge of hate or whatever, you just remember, this is coming from somewhere, right? Whenever you're there's no way there are all these people who are like this. Remember, it's all coming from somewhere. These are the same people. Epstein may be gone. He may be gone. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But Epstein may be gone. But I'm telling you, the structures that were there, that Epstein was the kind of in-between of, those all still exist. And all that is still happening. And all those people are still enriching themselves, expanding their power, and doing everything they can to avoid accountability and to control people. And so I think that's what we're seeing. I think it's something we need to stay on top of and understand that Donald Trump is integral to that goal and to that kind of elite group of people who are all involved in this sort of stuff. And we're not going to let up. We're not going to relent. We're going to stay on top of these stories no matter what. And that's our pledge to you. And thank you for your support.
And look, to that, I just want to go back to what I was saying earlier in the show with Donald Trump. There is not an honest bone in his body. It's clear. It's crystal clear by all of the times we've played the clips. It is crystal friggin' clear. The guy takes no accountability for himself. But what we're also seeing with MAGA Mike and the entire MAGA Republican ilk right now is that they don't care about you, the American person. They simply don't. They are going to lie, cheat, and steal so long as it continues to enrich themselves. And so I am hopeful that, for example, what we saw in Texas is a sign of things to come. And I think we've seen this over the year with all of the special elections that we've seen as well. It's just time that people are frankly fed up. And that's where we stand, right? I don't view myself as a political person. I view myself as someone who's pissed off, who's someone who's angry, who's someone who just simply wants the best for my fellow Americans. I know that, for future generations. And so just to see the smugness of which these Republicans continue to lie at the rate they continue to lie about, just knowing that they don't care to actually help the American people. They just want to enrich themselves at the end of the day. It hurts me deeply, personally, on a personal level. And it looks as if it is hurting the American people on a deeply personal level as well, just from what we saw with those independents in Texas, Benji.
I want to leave us with this. Can't believe I'm even showing this. But Donald Trump's number 2 at the Department of Justice, his former criminal defense attorney, Todd Blanche, had the following to say about his response to Trump and others being all over the files. So just play the clip.
Well, as some of the people we saw on camera at the rallies, is there any chance that any of these individuals who partied with Epstein and engaged in relations with minors will be prosecuted? Any chance?
I'll never say no, and we will always investigate any evidence of misconduct. But as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein, and so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein. And some of these men may have done horrible things, and if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand, that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. It isn't a crime to have
Didn't look like that's all that was going on some of those photos. I mean, if the photos could speak, some of them look pretty bad.
That's right. And unfortunately, photos can't speak. And so we need witnesses and we need
Are there
evidence
videotapes that you all have? Or
the witnesses are in the files. The survivors and victims are in the files. The photos of the people do speak. We can see them. We can actually hear the audio. We can see the grotesque photos. You're the DOJ. So you could reach out to these people. They've been actually trying to reach out to you, and you re-traumatize them by showing their faces and their information in the files. Again, this regime should horrify you. Not because you're a political this or a political that, but just because you're a human being. That's what I want to leave us with right now. A reminder, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and help us get to 6 million subscribers. You may think you're subscribed. Double check and hit subscribe if you're not. Become a member of the YouTube channel. It's becoming a paid member. And you can gift paid memberships to people. That helps sustain the operations of this network and helps us grow. We're in growth mode right now with our Washington, D.C. Bureau on the ground reporting throughout the country. That's thanks to you. I think you've seen the growth over the past month as we head to February. Your help is always appreciated there. Subscribe to the audio podcast by searching MeidasTouch. We recently launched Aaron Parnas's audio podcast, The Parnas Perspective. Subscribe to his audio podcast as well. Subscribe to our YouTube channel too. That's all I got. So go to MeidasPlus.com and also check out store.MeidasTouch.com for the Meidas merch and the Meidas gear. If you're in Canada, we make Meidas Canada gear, Maple Meidas gear. exclusively made in Canada for you, so you can continue your boycott. And we have the other gear made in the U.S., made by 100% unions here. All right, I'll leave you with that. Thank you, everybody. I know we covered a lot. I know some of this material was difficult to get through, but it was important that we stick with the facts. And we'll leave you with that. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Keep checking our videos throughout the day. We'll keep uploading new videos, as always, with breaking news content. And thank you all so much. We appreciate you. Stay in the fight. Stay in the fight. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty. Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.